Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the last 30 episodes, which were 30 in a row based on my book, Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines. If this is your first episode or you missed the last 30, basically what I did was talk about each one of the 30 chapters in that book. I just spoke about it off the cuff, unscripted, just sharing some insight with you. That book's very popular for growing and developing blue-collar team members. Sell a lot of those books, far more than any other book. But anyway, today, and actually if you're listening today, the day that this podcast is published, don't forget, today's Valentine's Day. You're either going to grow and develop your influence with your significant other, or you're going to decrease your influence based on what you do. So don't forget about that. But let's get into today's lesson. And I'm excited to talk about this because what I'm sharing with you today, Rhea and I have just recently developed this transformation equation, as we call it. And we got some things coming up. We got a webcast coming up that's free. You can register for. The Association for Talent Development is going to be hosting it. And I'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. And also, and that'll be February 25th, that webcast that's going to really dive in deep. It'll be about an hour dive into this. There'll be some PowerPoint slides on the webcast, and you won't see us, but you'll hear us live. And if you can't make it, if you register, you'll also be able to listen to that later and download the slides and that sort of thing. So a little bit deeper dive, more intentional on the webcast, February 25th. And I'll tell you where to find that in a little while. And then also April the 11th and 12th, Rhea and I will actually be in Alexandria, Virginia, conducting a day and a half workshop on transformational leadership. And the transformation equation will be what we actually kick that event off with, because it helps you understand why is transformational leadership so important. So today I'm just going to kind of give you an outline. I'll spend a few minutes telling you about this and what it really is and what it means, why it's important. So organizational transformation is about lasting, long-term, positive, and fundamental improvement that goes far beyond short-term initiatives and managing change. However, leading transformation requires key elements. When any one of the key elements is missing, the organization will experience frustration. You probably might know, there's a good chance you might know about that. Resistance. Probably seen that one too at time to time. Confusion. Anxiety. And stagnation. So in the transformation equation, if you can picture it, well, let me just say first, if you want to see this transformation equation, I recommend you go to my LinkedIn page. And it's real simple. Just get on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, actually on the next episode, which will come out in 3 days from today, I'm going to do an episode talking about LinkedIn and why you should use it, why you should be on it, why the importance of LinkedIn and that sort of thing. But today, I'm just telling you, if you have a LinkedIn account or whether you don't, go set it up, make one for free if you want to see this. But basically, go to my profile and scroll down to the activities section, and you'll be able to see my articles. I've got about 270 articles. Actually, it's 268. And the last one I did, and again, depends on when you're listening to this, the last one I did was on January 26th, and it's titled The Transformation Equation. So it'll be near the top. If you click on my activities, and then look at articles, you'll be able to click on that and see the transformation equation visually illustrated. And you'll also find links to the webcast that I was talking about earlier. And there's also links in there to learn more about the 1.5 day transformational leadership workshop we'll be doing in Alexandria, Virginia, which is basically Washington, D.C. And so you can find out the details of those two things, but you can also, again, you can see the illustration of the transformation equation. But if you can picture this, across the top, you basically got what you're going to do is you're going to discover the 5 foundational components of transformational leadership. So what Rhea and I have done is gave you a pretty awesome, everybody who has seen this equation, held it in their hand or seen a copy of it someplace, they're like, man, that is so simple. You don't even have to explain it. I understand it, and I know that it's true. And so, if you want to write down, if you're somewhere at home or in your office, you can write this down. If not, just listen. Or, again, go to my LinkedIn profile and just look for Mac's story there. And you can see this. But across the top, it says leadership development plus buy-in plus unifying purpose plus competency plus execution equals transformation. So to truly have cultural transformation in an organization, you got to have these 5 key components. And the reason leadership development is the first component is because it's the foundation for the other 4. So it's the most critical piece. Again, leadership development plus buy-in plus unifying purpose plus competency plus execution equals transformation. And so now I want to show you and get you to think about, if just one of those things is missing, what happens? And also, a lot of times there's more than one of them missing, especially if the first one's missing, if the leadership development component is missing, there's a good chance some of these other components are missing, because leadership development is the foundation for all these others. So think about this, if you're still writing this down. So now think about the equation. Leadership development doesn't happen. It's missing. We don't have it. That component is not on the table. So without leadership development, what do we have left? We have buy-in, unifying purpose, competency, execution. We're assuming all those 4 are still there, but we don't really have leadership development. So instead of equaling transformation, when you take leadership development component out of the equation and you just have the 4 remaining, that equals frustration. When we don't have leadership development, we have a lot of frustration. People don't work well together. They don't communicate well. They don't respect each other. They blame other people instead of taking responsibility. All kind of things happen. And you've been listening to my podcast. You understand, if all the things I talk about are missing, there's going to be a lot of frustration. So it's pretty obvious, if you work in an organization where there's no leadership development for everybody from top to bottom, there's probably a lot of frustration. I guarantee you, I could walk out and talk to the folks. Maybe I could talk to you and find out there's a lot of frustration. And if you understand what leadership development's about, we could trace it all back and understand that's the root cause. So the next component after leadership development, we add in buy-in. And that's because people buy into the leader before they buy into the leader's vision. So if you think about it, the third component really is vision. It's the unifying purpose. But let's say we have leadership development and we have a unifying purpose and we have competency and we have execution. But let's say there's no buy-in. And that could be to the organization's top leader. That could be to any leader in the organization. Whatever reason, we still have 4 components, but buy-in is missing. So we got leadership development, unifying purpose, competency, execution, but we don't have buy-in. What we what we get is resistance. So those 4 components without buy-in equals resistance. And you probably see a lot of resistance. So you could have no leadership development and no buy-in. The first 2 I just talked about. When those 2 are missing, you're going to have frustration and resistance. You may have a unifying purpose and a competency to do the job, and people are executing at some level, but there's going to be frustration and resistance. So you can start to see this, but you really need to see the visual. And so maybe I can inspire you to go check out my LinkedIn. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, be sure to follow or send a connection request. Sometimes I can't connect because LinkedIn limits you to 30,000 first connections, and I've got 37,000 followers and right at 30,000 first connections. So I have to disconnect from some people sometime to connect with new ones. So a lot of times you can only follow. But anyway, go check that out. So now let's say look at another level. Let's say we have leadership development. Let's say we have buy-in to the leaders. We have the competency to do the job. And we have execution. We have those 4 components. But we don't have a unifying purpose or a vision. Now what do we get? We get confusion. So leadership development, buy-in, competency, and execution without a unifying purpose gets confusing because people are running in all different directions. Now let's look at another piece of it missing. Let's say competency is missing from the equation. And this could be competency of a bunch of different people or one individual. But if we have leadership development and people are bought into the leader and we have a unifying purpose and people are attempting to execute, so we got those 4 components, but competency is missing, what do we get? Now we get anxiety. Because people don't know how to do what they're being asked to do. So a lot of times, leaders are being asked to lead. That's a crazy thing, isn't it? It just sounds funny even saying that. But most leaders, or I shouldn't say most, many leaders don't lead, and they're not expected to lead. They're expected to manage, and that's what they do. So when there's no leadership development, but someone above is asking a leader who reports to them, you need to be leading instead of managing. Now they don't have the competency to lead because there's no leadership development. So that creates anxiety. When you go into a group of people who manage people and start talking about leadership, anxiety sets in because they don't know how to lead. That's why they're not leading. They don't know how. Or either they don't value leadership. But it could be the same with a competency to actually do the job, whatever job you're expected to do. Say, for instance, you move from one job to another. Now you're in a new position and you don't have the competency. You still have leadership development. There's buy-in. There's unifying purpose. And execution's not an issue. But competency is. You're going to have anxiety. A new person comes in. They don't have the competency to do the job. They're going to have anxiety. Things change. Systems change. Customers change. All kinds of things are changing. Whenever that changes, if it impacts and results in a lack of competency to do the new thing, anxiety sets in. So now let's look at the last thing, the last component missing. Let's say we got leadership development. We got buy-in. We got unifying purpose. We have competency. We have those 4 components. But the last component of the transformation equation, execution, is not happening. We don't execute well as a team or as an individual. What do we get then? We get stagnation. We get maintaining the status quo. So I know it's kind of hard to visualize this and see it. Again, go to my LinkedIn, look at the transformation equation article, blog, whatever you want to call it, that I posted on January 26th of 2019, and you can see the visual. Let's go back over it right quick. When we have all 5 components, leadership development, buy-in, unifying purpose, competency, and execution, we get transformation. That's the foundational, the 5 foundational components of transformation. Let's say one's missing. When leadership development is missing, we get frustration. When buy-in is missing, we get resistance. When unifying purpose is missing, we get confusion. When competency is missing, we get anxiety. When execution is missing, we get stagnation. And you know the sad thing? I go into a lot of companies, and in my life, I've worked in a lot of companies and been involved with a lot of companies. Some companies, almost sometimes all of this stuff's missing. It may not be the entire company. It might be a team. It might be a department. Could be a division. Certain times, all of these things could be missing, or one thing, or two things, three things, four things, right? And so you could have any combination of frustration, resistance, confusion, anxiety, stagnation. You could have all of that at the same time when they're all missing. So this transformation equation is so critical because it helps the leaders understand why. Why do we need to do leadership development? So it gives a simple visual. And if you'd like a copy of this, if you don't want to go get on LinkedIn and look at it there, or you want a copy, email me at mac@macstory.com and tell me you want a copy of the transformation equation, an image, and I'll send you a PDF file of that, and you'll have that. Somebody saw it the other day, said, I'm posting that on the wall of my desk, the wall of my office, above my desk. And so it's MACstory.com. Just send me an email, and I'll get that to you. And depends on where I'm at, where I'm traveling and speaking and all that kind of stuff. Forgive me if it takes me a minute, but most of the time I can reply within 12 hours and pretty much always within 24 hours. Just depends on where I'm at and what time you hit me up. So remember, go to LinkedIn. You can get the links to the webcast, which is free, and then you can find out about the day-and-a-half workshop. So in the webcast, the people who get on there, they're going to learn about the transformation equation. They're going to learn the primary components that support organizational transformation, the critical importance of each component, and how to identify which component is missing. So I want to leave you with a thought right here. A lot of companies are trying to transform their culture and get better, which is a great thing. But when you talk about true cultural transformation, I want you to know one thing. Without a transformational leader, there will not be a cultural transformation. It takes a transformational leader to transform a culture. That's the whole point of why we call a transformational leader. So if you or somebody on your team is interested in taking a day-and-a-half deep dive into what it takes to truly establish the foundation and become a transformational leader, move beyond traditional management and supervision and move into high-impact transformational leadership, check out my LinkedIn site. Check out that article on the transformation equation, and then check out the link for the day-and-a-half workshop. Be in DC, April the 11th and April the 12th. So I hope you have a great day. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen, or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.